For many years, we at T.REX have wanted to sell a radio. Radio communications is incredibly important. We've been making educational materials about it for a very long time, but we've never had a product that we wanted to carry because people wanted us to bring about some kind of amazing turnkey do-it-all radio, and that's just not how radio works. And the BTECH UV-PRO doesn't do it all, but it does a lot of the things that we wanted to accomplish. This is a great beginner radio, it's a great advanced radio, it's a sturdy radio. It's not the cheapest radio that you can get, but it is an affordable way to begin doing radio stuff. So let's go over a few of its features. The first out-of-the-box thing that you notice is it has a full keypad and a screen, and it's a 5-watt dual-band radio, so UHF and VHF. It doesn't do any tri-band stuff, and it doesn't do crazy 8-watt stuff like a lot of the cheap Chinese handhelds do. Most of those don't actually do those either. It's just on the box and they kind of work. This thing is actually rock solid in that UHF and VHF band area, but it can also listen outside of that. It's aviation bands, listening only. You can also listen for NOAA weather band alerts. You can listen to those only. But there's a bunch of other features in this that make it more interesting than just your standard Chinese radio. This is from China, and it is imported by BTECH, and it is a little bit more expensive than your average Baofeng because it is IP7 rated. It's much sturdier, and it has USB charging and all the modern features that you would want in a radio. But more than that, it has Bluetooth, and not just kind of a weird tacked-on Bluetooth, but proper Bluetooth. So it's very easy to connect it to your Bluetooth earbuds and Bluetooth push-to-talk things, and also your phone so that you can program it over your phone. But it's more than that because the whole modem for this thing is also exposed over Bluetooth. So APRS Droid and various other pieces of software like WinLink, you can do a lot of stuff through this radio on the more advanced ham side of things. And it has GPS installed as well, so you can do APRS and text messaging with that digital modem inside of here. It's all built in, and that lets you do either really simple analog radio operation or more complicated hand stuff, depending on your comfort level. I keep saying digital modem, and people in the ham radio community will kind of get on my case about that because it's still all analog in here, but you can send digital data through there. It's both. It's always complicated because it's both. But this radio can be just a simple analog handheld with USB-C charging, good ruggedness, and we're supporting this radio with some other tools as well. So this is the radio armor, protecting some of the features of the radio if you're running it in a carrier or in a bag. This helps it to be a little bit more secure, protects the volume knob and other things that you don't want to accidentally bump. There's a bunch of different ways that you can use this radio. If all you want to do is be able to talk on specific frequencies, turn it on, hold down the star button, and now you're in VFO mode, and you can just type the frequency that you would like to broadcast on. I'm sure that one's clear. But the other thing that you can do is connect this over Bluetooth to the app. They have their own app, and it's very simple and straightforward to select any channel that you would like. You can listen to what's happening on the radio over the radio, and even control the volume from the app. Or I can listen to the same thing through the phone. So I can leave this in a bag, I can set this up on the top of my car, and still not just control the radio, but listen and transmit through this radio with the app. So all kinds of interesting possibilities open up once you start messing with the app. And again, you can do this at a very simple level where you just are selecting different channels, and this is how you program these different channels into the radio. As I switch on the radio, I can see what the radio is doing. It's very well thought out. It's very straightforward. It's quite intuitive, but you definitely want to tinker with some of these things. But there's also a map mode. I mentioned this radio has GPS, and once we look at our map, we can actually see some different areas on the map populating with different APRS nodes that I have received recently. or some of these not so recently. I've been experimenting with this radio for some time. Each of these are APRS nodes that are currently broadcasting or were broadcasting recently that I can reply back to. I can either reply back inside of the app, or I can use kind of sort of T9 texting on the keypad to reply just using the radio. I can run this radio very quickly and simply with the app, and it's very intuitive, and I have all of my regular phone features, or I can run it without the app and I can do most of the things. The compass and GPS in here will let me see heading and distance to people who are sharing their locations and texting me, but there's no room on this actual display to show me a map. If I actually want things on the map, I do need to use the app for that. And their app is reasonably good at offline tile caching, so it is a little bit like ATAC Lite, but there's also an ATAC plugin for this specific radio coming from Gorilla Dynamics very soon. So at this particular price range, we believe that this radio does kind of do, not everything, but a lot of the things that you would want from a handheld. This is a device that is going to give you entry-level, basic, rock-solid UHF, VHF, handheld FM capability. It's rugged enough and solid enough that it's worth spending a little bit of extra money for that durability, and the USB-C charging and Bluetooth means that you can run it with existing peripherals that you already have for your phone. Now, if you want to get into more complicated setups with your active hearing protection and various things that are connected to your helmet, we have the down leads for those from Auto, and we're including an adapter so that you can plug those in properly with every radio. But I will say the Bluetooth works really, really well, both to the phone and to earbuds and to other accessories. And then if you want to run that on various pieces of kit, we are supporting it with different pieces of equipment. And if you want to do advanced ham radio stuff with apps, you want to do digital communications, you want to get into APRS, you want to get into WinLink, and you want to get into ATAC, this radio also does that. So even though this is an analog radio, it's not a high-end digital radio, it doesn't have the full encryption, it lets you do so much at such a low price that it is the obvious one for us to bring on at T.REX Arms. It checks most of the boxes, it covers most of the bases, it lets you do most of the things. If you're starting out in radio, you can use this when it gets out of the box. GMRS licensing is great. It's Part 90 certified, so you can even use it for public safety stuff. And then, of course, the ham bands are available, and lots of ham modes are available. And you can just continue to build on this radio, and you can continue to experiment with different modes and different skills and different apps. As they continue to develop the firmware for this radio, they're opening up new things all the time. So I'm also impressed with the ongoing development and support for this radio. We're also sourcing this radio through BTECH. They're based here in the United States. It's a Chinese radio. It's made in Chinese factories. But the importer is very quick and easy to deal with. Warranty stuff is easy, support is easy, even firmware suggestions that I have made. They've been very responsive to respond to those, put me on the beta program so I can try early firmwares. They have been great to deal with, and so I hope that that kind of explains why we chose this radio to carry a T.REX Arms, why you might want to carry this radio as your daily driver because it covers so many different bases. Either as a beginner who wants to get into this and have a little bit of a simpler setup. The map doesn't look super simple. A little bit of a simpler setup for just remotely controlling and programming the radio without dealing with cables and without dealing with weird softwares. But also know that this radio gives you some room to grow. And if you have any specific questions about accessories are tricky, but specific questions about different things that you could or couldn't do with this radio, don't hesitate to contact our customer support team, team@trex-arms.com.